So, all right, welcome everyone to this fireside chat. Today, we are going to talk about leveraging automation when prospecting for new clients with your recruiting business, right? So, a question we get all the time, and probably this is one of the main things that really people come to us for is people who are recruiters will say, you know what, I'm good at recruiting, I'm good at sourcing. You give me a job order, or you give me a motivated hiring manager, a job description that's clear, and give me a few days. I almost don't care what the role is. I can build candidate pipeline. I'm really confident recruiting. But if you kind of force me to go out prospect for new business and leverage like modern B2B tools like automations, that's totally outside of a wheelhouse, right? On the other hand, we have people who are, we work with non-recruiters too, and they need to learn this as well as how to do recruiting. So, and obviously we cover that as well in our training. But specifically, we'll dive into topics like LinkedIn automation, email automation, and why it's necessary, why it works, and how to do it the right way and avoid some of the common mistakes a lot of people get into when they try to do this the wrong way on their own or make common mistakes that they didn't know they were not supposed to make. So, um, and of course, joined by our director of recruiting and head coach, Jesse Tuggle, and our managing director, Joshua Killingsworth. So thanks, guys, for jumping on and doing this. So, Josh, without further ado, I'll pass it over to you to kind of get the conversation going.
So yeah, I think I was starting right at the top. One of the most common questions that people have when it comes to automating, especially on LinkedIn, less so on email, but it still comes up is like, doesn't it break the terms of service on LinkedIn? Isn't it illegal to use on there? Won't you
Mhm.
put your account at risk? Things like that. So yeah, kind of what insight can you?
Yeah, good question. So it is a fear that people have, like especially recruiters. I mean, like they use LinkedIn every single day, right? And like they're like, if I ever get in trouble with LinkedIn, that'd be like a death sentence for my career. Like I can't ever risk my LinkedIn account, LinkedIn profile. So they don't even explore what it looks like. And funny enough, when I first spoke with some LinkedIn automation service providers, I asked the same question. Hey, is this like illegal? Like, does LinkedIn like allow you to do this? I thought you weren't, this is going against LinkedIn's policies. And they gave me an answer that I'll always remember. And they're like, look, technically, yes, they say out there like, hey, no automations, but the fact of the matter is, if you go into LinkedIn and type in the keyword LinkedIn automation, you'll see tons and tons of profiles of people selling software providers teaching and selling LinkedIn automation. And we're one of them. If LinkedIn really didn't want LinkedIn automation to occur on their platform, they can just take it down like that, right? They can just ban those profiles that mention the words LinkedIn automation. But why don't they? Because they make millions of dollars selling LinkedIn premium subscriptions, which is required to send messages at high volume, right? To use automation, you have to have a LinkedIn premium subscription. So they'd be killing the revenue if they did that. Now, that being said, they don't want you to abuse the platform, right? They're very protective of their user base. They don't want people spamming. So as long as you keep things within the range of what's considered kind of normal business activity, it's fine. Like they don't want you to abuse it. So and a couple of times they have cracked down is for people who have tried to go beyond the normal limits of what LinkedIn can do, and they break the system that way. So as long as you can keep it within the safety limits, you're fine. Another way is to also make sure you use the right tools, right? There's lots of LinkedIn automation tools out there. People have been adopting it over the last few years. And using the wrong tool that's not cloud-based, that doesn't have safety features built in that will prevent you from setting volume too high, where it does start getting into like the kind of like the danger zone territory. If you don't have the right tool, then obviously you run that risk, right? But if you have the right tool that's proven, and you learn it from a system that's helped hundreds of people, that's never had an issue. We've never had an issue to this day, right? Of people having issues with LinkedIn that it's fine, right? My LinkedIn personally, so is Jesse. We're all running automations on our profiles, and we use LinkedIn every single day as well. We personally wouldn't risk our own profiles if we thought this was something that was too risky, but we use it ourselves. So we're also a user as well as a advocate of LinkedIn automation. But yeah, Jesse, thoughts on that or from what you've seen, helping our clients?
Yeah. I haven't ever had anybody that has an issue there. I definitely understand the concerns, but I think you laid it out really well. Really, and not to like veer in another direction, the biggest issue, if anything, would just be making sure that you're using your profile and that you're using like an active live profile that has an ID attached to it and everything. That would be the easiest way to put up like a red flag and get kicked off the platform. But running automations, I do it, John does it. Everyone does. It's a necessary evil, and LinkedIn understands that too. And we already have like procedures and kind of like tape in place that you can't go past like a certain limit, so you don't get
Mhm.
yourself in, like muddy water. So yeah, it's really no big deal. I know it is from a lot of people see it that haven't been through it before, but for me, I see it every single day. I talk to people that are running it every single day. No big
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah, and another usually a next question after this people ask, so I'll kind of dive into this topic is they'll say, okay, got it, that makes sense, sure, but I don't want to use my profile for whatever reason, right? Sometimes it's like I still don't feel comfortable, right? So that's, but I still want to leverage this this strategy and this technology, or they say, I'm comfortable, but I work at a job now that I can't, like I don't want to mess up. Like I don't want to really have my profile be the brand and name and face of of my business because I want to create separation, right? I want to run my recruiting business like almost anonymously, right?
Mhm.
Create clear separation between my day job, my 9 to 5 job, and my recruiting business. So how do I go about doing that? Because if I use my profile, obviously, like who knows, I might get back to my boss. I don't want to get in trouble. I want to run this like completely under radar and it'd be completely separate, right? And is that even possible? So I'll take a step at answering my own question there, which is one, it's not only possible, but we teach people to do it every single day. We have people that we have a process called creating an avatar profile. So if I, for let's say Jesse's a friend of mine who doesn't have a LinkedIn or he's not active on LinkedIn, he just doesn't use for his job. Let's say he's a nurse, right? And just doesn't use LinkedIn. Then I can ask him, hey, hey buddy, can I borrow your LinkedIn profile? You just use it to grow my business. If you ever need it back, I'll give it back to you. And he'll say sure, and he'll build that up. And then I can take his profile. And again, like what Jesse said, you want to use a real person. What you don't want to ever do is have a fake profile, like just copy and paste a random picture of somebody, throw it in there.
Big no
LinkedIn's very
no.
good. Yeah. Yeah. LinkedIn will crack down on fake profiles and they can easily just kind of do if it's flagged, they'll ask for an ID, a verification. So that's why you have to ask a real person who's a friend, family member to be like, hey, and I've done this before too. Like, hey, buddy, can you send me a front and back picture of your driver's license? I need to upload it to LinkedIn because this is a new account. And so they want to make sure you're a real person. And of course, when you have an ID, it's no issue whatsoever. But then this strategy is called running an avatar profile. So then I make Jesse's profile and his face, the named face of my recruiting business, right? Even though he has nothing to do with it, let's say, and I can target that, I can point that profile towards hiring managers. The only part that's kind of like, a little bit weird in the beginning is that when they reply back, hey, Jesse, love to learn more. I'm replying as if I were the avatar person. I'm like, oh, sure, let's jump on the call. I'll invite my CEO, John, as well, because he works directly with this candidate and can fill you in on their past projects, their comp ranges, even their, what they're looking for. And then that's it. And then I book a call for myself and I show up on the call. And I don't have to, uh, yeah, and they won't really care who I am. Just know that I'm the one that can help them. So, and also if for people who are even like particular, okay, is this person like I don't want to reach out to someone that might be a friend of my boss and be like, hey, you know what I mean? But in this method, the only time you would even take a call is if someone replies back, you can quickly look on their LinkedIn profile and see if they have common connections with, you, right? And then you can kind of like vet them. Be, all right, this person, this prospect, this potential client has no ties to my current boss, my last boss. Okay, I feel comfortable showing up on camera on Zoom call, knowing that this is a good opportunity. It's clean. There's a clear separation between 9 to 5 and my business, my recruiting business. Now, again, not everyone feels to do it that length, but I want to make sure that even for the most paranoid, the most fearful or cautious person, we have processes that completely have been bulletproof for like years now. So, yeah, Josh, Jesse, anything you want to add to that for people who maybe don't feel comfortable using their own profiles?
Yeah, one thing I was going to say, just like, and to share with you guys that haven't heard this before, is that when I started my firm, I actually did this method before me and John knew each other. I was running in my term was stealth mode. I came up with it with my partners. So brief background there. But one thing I was going to say is I ran into this a lot is that if I still wanted the business, but I didn't feel comfortable putting my face out there because I was like, maybe there's a chance it comes back to me, I would still put the Zoom call together, but I just wouldn't go on camera. Now it's not ideal, obviously. Most of the time I was, but I could still feel comfortable pitching like the business and everything and just say, oh, hey, I'm not at a place where I can come on camera. No big deal. Like once you have the contract signed and everything, most of the back and forth is going to be via email or text message, at least in my experience. So you can still get the business and show up there without showing your face, or like I would do phone calls. But exactly what John's saying is it's never any like big deal. And once you get used to it, at first it's a little bit weird. But you just set the meeting on your own calendar through the avatar profile, get everything set up. And from there, it's just providing a solution, hearing out people's pain points, and then just being their partner. Same thing you would be doing at your day job or if you've ever opened up your own firm.
Right. And then I think effectively this avatar profile or even your profile, if you use it, can serve almost like a sales rep or a SDR, right? Sales
Exactly.
development representative that's going out there in the field and like just quietly tapping a whole bunch of hiring managers on the shoulder, right? At scale, we're sending high volume, but to a very specific list of hiring managers with a very specific message offering value like in your niche, right? We talked so much about niche before in the past fireside chats, but that's kind of how I look at it. Like these LinkedIn profiles that are running on automation are basically the same thing as if you hired a full-time BDR, SDR to go out there and prospect for you, except you don't have to pay them a salary and they work 7 days a week. And yeah, it's a lot easier, more effective, and streamlined that way.
100%.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just like a sourcer's job in a lot of firms that have that setup where it goes like sourcer, recruiter, and then account manager, is that they're never going to actually speak with the candidate like live on the phone or anything. They're just
Mhm.
doing outreach. And that's for clients and candidates. So essentially you're just plugging in the same system, but you're just doing it through an avatar profile. And like John's saying, you're not paying for that individual, but you're getting the same service. Obviously, it's a little bit more of your time, but when you're bootstrapping things and getting it together, it's necessary. And it worked out perfectly for me. And there's a lot of other people in the program too that do the same thing and they have no issues. So I definitely feel comfortable like telling you guys that it works and it's not a big deal. You just need somebody to kind of guide you through it.
Yep, love it. Yeah, back to you,
Right.
Josh. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's not a whole lot I can add there. You guys pretty much nailed it. The other one around, so rather than having like a LinkedIn account get in trouble, is email automations. Aren't they
Mm.
spam? They don't work. People don't read them. Kind of what can you say to people who have that misconception about email in general?
Yeah, so email is a very important piece of our client acquisition strategy because we do leverage automation and like LinkedIn is great. So there's this pros and cons between both LinkedIn and email. And the way I like to look at it is LinkedIn, the pro is that it has a higher response rate. Because like social media, you get to see someone's picture, look at their background, right? It's a little more warmer. So high response rate, but because LinkedIn, your LinkedIn profile is owned by LinkedIn Corporation, that they can restrict how many reach outs, connection requests, in mails you send. So volumes would be relatively lower. Email, on the other hand, no one like owns email, so you can have a much higher volume, like 4x to volume being sent through email, but it has a lower response rate. It's cold, right? They have no idea who you are. So you kind of need the extra volume as well on your side. But when you pair them together in tandem, that's been kind of what we found to be a winning like 1-2 combination where you're doing LinkedIn and email in tandem. And like, let's face it, every single hiring manager is going to be on either LinkedIn or email both. And they don't check their LinkedIn inbox like every single day, like recruiters do. So if you only just do one, you're leaving some opportunity on the table. So that's kind of that. But with email, though, you mentioned things like spammy or spam filters or stuff like that. And those are common concerns. Those are common challenges for most people because like I personally hate spam emails, right? I have some very strict filtering that will filter most emails that are junk emails into my spam folder. And we have people come to us saying, "Hey, I've tried the email marketing in the past, but I barely got responses." We'll dig in and realize, oh, you didn't set up the right way. Like you didn't warm up your domains to prevent spam, right? So I'll talk about spam for a moment. The way that we kind of get around having our emails that we send, avoid the spam folder is by properly warming up your domain. Because if you create a new recruiting business today, a new domain, a new .com, right? Like so and so, like your name, recruitingbusiness.com, and you start to send email automations at scale, send high volume emails. Well, right away, the email server is smart. It'll be like, wait, this is a brand new domain. It has no business sending 50 to 100 emails per day, and they can see your response rate. And these 50 to 100 emails per day are getting almost no responses. This must be low quality email. That's a one-way ticket to the spam folder. Once you're in spam jail, it's very hard to get out, right? So you want to do some things up front to warm up your domains. We have tools we recommend. But if you set up properly, and you can have what's called a high email deliverability score, right? Your email health is high, then all your emails get to the inbox, and then you're having conversation started there. So that's kind of how we get around like the spam folder issue, spam jail. Now, in terms of email in general, like does that work still? Well, yeah, emails work well when you reach out to the right audience with the right message and you're offering value in a way that sounds different than every other salesy email you read, right? So the idea is kind of simple. It's like everything we try to do in email marketing, LinkedIn, even on client calls with hiring managers is like, let's face it, people are sick and hiring managers are sick of hearing from salesy, pushy, super optimistic, high energy recruiters saying, we can definitely help you. We're the best, we give you the best talent, find the best passive candidates, all this stuff. They've heard it all before. So if your message sounds anything like that, that's an easy way for them to be like skip, ignore, block, junk, right? So what that means to say is that like everything that we do is try to do the opposite of that. So we don't want to sound, look, smell like the pushy, salesy, overly optimistic, energetic recruiter, and instead, come in that different approach, and that gives you a chance to stand out from the crowd and actually get your email read and get a response. I mean, one of our best alumni, Lauren, right? Lauren got her clients that she ended up making like hundreds. I mean, she's like billed 500K now, I think this year in healthcare. It was from an email response, not LinkedIn. And it wasn't the first email, it was like the fifth email in the follow-up sequence that they said, oh, hey, Lauren, I begin your email. Sorry, timing has been right about hiring, but we just had someone fall off. Let's talk. And it became her best client from like a fifth email from a campaign that she just ran on autopilot, right? So I think it's beautiful when I see those type of stories. But Jesse, I know you talk to our coaching clients daily, right? What have you seen from people with emails and results on that regard?
Yeah, I liked what you were talking through, and I feel the same way. Is that it's important to, I always like use the term a hybrid approach with things, and it's the same with messaging, like utilizing the channels from email, LinkedIn, because they all have pros and cons, and also like depending upon the person you're reaching out to, it's going to determine like where their preferred communication channel is. Like some people are more email people. There's others that just live through LinkedIn and they'll talk to me all day through there, but then we'll never exchange an email. So both are super important. When it comes to like results on both sides, I talk to multiple people a day that have a lot of success in email. Like we have Daryl in the program who does the legal space, and he's mostly exclusively through email where he gets his clients. He's had a ton of success. I think when we talked yesterday, he was working on 8 open positions for paralegals. And then there's other people that have a lot of success on the LinkedIn side of things, but email is just as important. I think it's like you said, it really just depends upon the delivery and like the tone of the solution that you're providing or the partnership that like you're kind of lobbying to them. And the reason why I think it has such a negative connotation, same way with recruiting, is there's so many people that do it the wrong way. So like doing it the right way and having a solid foundation going into it and having like the right direction is like the biggest, I guess, point of success that I've seen for most of the people in our program. And I can tell you from like my seat of being like the head coach over here is that if something's not working for you, like in the email or LinkedIn sequence, like we're always going to be tinkering with it until we find like your right voice is like what I say. but it all goes off of the foundation that we've made, which works really well. So a ton of people are having success with it. Um, yeah, it does really well on both sides, LinkedIn and email, but each have pros and cons.
So
Yeah.
that brings me to the next question is why don't most people get results when it comes to automations? And you kind of touched on that. Messaging may be off, targeting may be off, it's overly aggressive with how many
Hmm.
people they're trying to message at a time.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
And
think one thing that comes to mind is like their approach of like a blanketed approach, right? Like a lot of people, and I feel bad because I was once one of them where I would just check out demo after demo and check out different, training videos and webinars of all these different tools and Chrome plugins, and it's almost like overwhelming all the possible. And then if in that state of overwhelm with all these different tools, I'm trying to like piecemeal and like Frankenstein together a cohesive system to actually run a real business. And when that gets too frustrating, people just end up giving up and be like, how to do the old way of like pick up the phone or I'll manually do it. And they just, with that low volume, like barely move the needle, right? So I think, well, to answer your question, why doesn't it work for most people is they might set up one campaign, say, okay, I want to target these 1,000 hiring managers across different verticals, across different industries, and send them the same message. Hey, here's what I do, how I can help you. And they do some type of like services offering message, like, hey, we help companies hire the best talent. We'll love to talk to you. Do you want to book a call? Here's my calendar link. And they just send it to everybody. Now, of course, like and we went into messaging, right, in a recent fireside chat, but like that, with that type of messaging, you're gonna get a lower response rate because it's so generic. And it makes it sound like a commodity, like you're selling plain white t-shirts. Because if you're in the business of selling plain white t-shirts, the only way you can compete is based on price. Like you have to be the cheapest one, and of course, that's not a game you want to play. Instead, right, if you create more segmented campaigns, you have one campaign that's targeting, let's say, using generally paralegals, one campaign targeting companies that are hiring engineers, right? One campaign and or whatever, or your legal space, one campaign hiring contract lawyers, one with paralegals, one with like litigation attorneys, let's say, for example. And your message is very specific to those companies, and you know ahead of time that they're hiring for that exact position. Now all of a sudden, what you're saying is like music to their ears, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of, I think, one thing that people, and it's not easy. It's always easy to figure out how to do that in an effective way. So yeah, that kind
Yeah,
of makes
it's
sense.
like
Or thoughts on that?
yeah, absolutely. I was like, I always think about this is that like, is that a good paint job is only going to do so much in an ugly house. So it's like having a solid foundation like that we have for the structure of the messaging and making sure that like you're not going to spam folders and everything. And then once we have that foundation, like a good house, then it's like putting that solid paint on there, like a really good paint job. So depending upon your specialty, we'd be working together on like verbiage, like certain call outs. And I would lean into
Mhm.
you all as well, if you came on board for like your backgrounds as far as like what industry you come from or what you're passionate about, of how we can like kind of play into that and
Mhm.
make those call outs in the messaging. So it's taking the foundation and then building off of that, and putting like your own special touch on it. That's where,
Yeah.
and when I'm talking about Daryl, like he does that really well, is he does very specific campaigns. And when we talk to each other, he's like, he always learns more from either candidates on the market that he's speaking with or his current
Mhm.
clients, where he finds more like little nuggets to throw in. Like you guys know within whatever your special interest is or like your careers and stuff, if someone said like a certain word, you'd be like, oh, only somebody who actually knows about that or has been in that industry would understand what I'm talking about. Those are like
Yeah.
to give you guys like a little piece of the pie that you can put inside your messaging, that if like someone sent me something in recruiting space and they use certain words, I'd be like, oh, they actually have value or they know what they're talking about. This isn't just another plain white tea salesman. Like this
Yeah.
might be something here where I'll give them 10, 15 minutes to have a conversation on.
Right. And to be fair, like it's funny, like I think a lot of people we talk to, like they kind of assume that like, oh, the programs these like kind of cookie cutter templates that I'll do the exact same thing that all the hundreds of other people who are in the program are doing. And what they don't, I guess, realize is that it's very much of a one-on-one personalized thing, right? I mean, there's a
Yeah.
reason why Jesse, you hop on a call with people one-on-one every single week for the first month to drill down their niche to help them customize a message for them. and really understand who they are, their background, what value they want to offer, who they want to target, and like it's all custom, you're kind of done with you, right? And sure, I think 2 years ago, I had more of a kind of a blanket approach because at the time, a couple of years ago, LinkedIn automation wasn't really a thing. So you could get away with kind of having a well-written yet kind of generic message, and at scale, at volume, is going to get you lots of business. The thing that's changed, however, it kind of leads to your question, Josh, about like why does this not work for a lot of people, is nowadays everyone has LinkedIn automation. Like it's a very common thing. So what that means is your messaging strategy needs to be different and better than the average person leveraging this type of tool. The only way that we found to do that is to actually work with people, sit them down, do one-on-one calls where all we do is help them tailor everything for them, review their system, review their campaigns, not just their first message, but all their subsequent follow-up messages too. So that way we can give them the green light. They can hit run, hit launch, and they know with confidence that they're doing all the right stuff. Right? They're adopting all of the best practices we've been iterating over the last few years doing this.
100%.
Cool. So yeah, we kind of touched on why they don't. So from a better way, you guys have touched on it quite a bit in the messaging. So we see normal people, and we even have people come into our program trying to just download a list of 2,500 people, plug it in, and hope for the best. Kind of touch on the way we go about it and why, because I know it's counterintuitive and people kind of push back like, all you're doing is that little bit every day. How does that actually generate results? But in our experience, obviously it does. So kind of versus the spray and pray approach versus, they're hiring, who they're hiring for, who the hiring manager is, kind of.
Yeah, good question. So I think I'll kind of address this two ways. Like one, like why, like why is it a must-have, right? I think this is considered a must-have component of a recruiting business. Before it was more of a nice to have. If you were good on the phones, you had a network, this will be a good supplement to your recruiting business, your prospecting efforts. Now I think it's a must-have, and actually I'll go down that route first because look, let's face it, most of the people we talk to who want to start recruiting business, they also have a 9 to 5 job. Right? They have to kind of keep the money coming in, pay the bills, that sort of thing, keep a roof over their head. So they don't have like 2 or 3 hours every day to manually send cold emails, to manually type in well-written LinkedIn messages. And even if they did, it's definitely not sustainable, right? Because I used to do that. I used to spend hours per day, and the reason why I got away with it was because I was doing it full time, running my agency. So imagine having to research 10 companies who are all hiring, look at the description. Within each company, find like 3 or 4 hiring managers, maybe a director level person, a VP level person, a head of talent acquisition or HR. Pull up their profile, write something really thoughtful, send it over to them. Oh, cool. That was like 20, 25 minutes. Create a follow-up task. Okay, in 3 days, follow with all 3 people. If you do that, then in like a week, you'll be slammed. You're like, okay, I gotta send 20 more messages. That takes me an hour or two, and to follow up on like my 50 other people. And then like, and then let's face it, the moment you get clients from that process, which you will, and let's say you have 3 or 4 job orders, like what are you going to focus on realistically? Are you going to focus on working this list of people you've reached out to who never replied back to you and follow up with them again? Or are you going to just go and try to fill the jobs you have? Right? Most people just be like, there's a reason why there's a saying in recruiting called focus on what's closest to the dollar. Because if you have 3 job orders or 300 people to follow up with, you're going to go after 3 job orders. Now, what does that happen to your business development if you're doing it manually? Well, it stops because you're just focusing on like sourcing, recruiting, which is important. But let's say of those 4 job orders, you fill one, the 2 gets filled by other agencies, and 1 gets on a hiring freeze. It gets put on hold. Now you have no job orders. Now you have to go put on the prospecting hat and like start to grind away. And unfortunately, that's what most recruiting agencies look like behind the scenes. And as a result, you have this roller coaster of billing, roller coaster of income, emotionally too. It's stressful as well. And so, and that's if you have all the time in the world to do this. If you have a 9 to 5 job, just take that and like, half an hour per day, right? It's barely going to be enough volume to move the needle, which is why I think having this automated approach is a must-have, because you don't have time to do the manual way. And even if you did, you couldn't sustain it anyways, right? So that's kind of like, I think, why it's a must-have. And yeah, I guess I'll pause there for thoughts, Jesse or Josh, or any follow-up questions that you think people might have based
Yeah,
on that.
what you're laying out is like exactly true. Is that I always think of it as that a lot of people feel like they're coming from peaks and valleys, like that's how it is, but it doesn't have to be that way. Like you can, I always
Right.
try to talk about the peace of mind that comes, and you guys already know this and can assume it, of riding like in the middle ground and not letting things affect you, where you can focus on things that are closest to the money, but then feel confident that your pipeline's always being like refilled because you have a solid foundation and because you're still adding in leads and like you have automations doing, I don't know, 60, 70% of the work for you in the back end. So you don't have to
Mhm.
constantly be worrying about, okay, once these roles are filled, or if they're put on a hiring freeze or someone else fills them, what am I going to do? There's things already working in the background for you. So it's a more holistic approach to actually running your business. And I mean, truthfully, when I had my agency, like I felt exactly what you're talking about until we implemented automations, and that was years into it. If we would have been doing that off the start, I probably could have, I don't know, gained back maybe like 6 months of sleep from like freaking
Yeah.
out so much about when there was hiring freeze or something happened. So yeah, I guess more so just adding on what you're saying. It's definitely true, and like it's so much more peaceful and sustainable to be riding in this middle ground where you don't have to
Mhm.
feel like it's going to go up and down all the time. And automation helps a lot with that.
Yeah, I love those points. And this one, and so for anyone who's on this webinar or watching this kind of recording, if you're not sure if this might help you move the needle, or you're not sure if you even need this, it's very there's a quick way to figure this out, right? All you gotta do is open your calendar right now, take a look at the next 3 to 4 weeks ahead, and count how many appointments do you have with new potential clients, hire, director, VP level hiring manager, people who have the authority to hire you, not like a manager or anything like that. But how many appointments do you have with prospective clients on your calendar in the next 3 to 4 weeks? I've asked that all the time, and the answer is like 99% is zero, 1% time maybe one. And then of course, like they wonder why am I not billing enough? Why do all my clients like suck? All my clients are headaches. They never get back to me. But I can't walk away from them because I have like, what else am I gonna do? So something's better than nothing. A 12% fee is better than nothing. This unresponsive client's better than no opportunity. And I think the truth of the matter, so that's the one key metric, right? Now, if I talk to someone, they say they have one call even one appointment every week for the next 3 weeks, I can say that person's gonna be successful because they somehow crack the code to be able to print one appointment per week with a hiring manager. So that's the key metric, guys. If you have one appointment per week with a new client, a new potential client, what that usually translates to, right, is like 4 calls a month, and statistically, one of those four should sign paperwork with you saying, you know what, I will pay you 20% of your candidate's first year salary, because why not, right? It's no obligation on my end, no upfront fees or anything like that. You're saying that only if you send me someone who's such a rock star and I fall in love with them, and they're significantly stronger than any candidate in my pipeline, and I hire them, would there be a one-time fee? Why not? That's no risk on for me. So it's a fairly easy ask, right, for contingency recruiting. But if you don't have that, that means you don't have the processes, volume, everything dialed in to generate one appointment per month. And unfortunately, what that means is you're kind of stuck with the quote unquote bad business you have, right? Because then people tell us all the time, I wish I could just like not have this client. I'm like, well, why don't you just replace them with another client, right? So it's instead the optimal vision of this, the version that we always promote, that we help our clients get, is that to have this system that's generating new appointments, 1 or 2 or 3 new appointments every single week, so that you can constantly upgrade your client portfolio, right? You have this mix of different clients. The moment a client becomes difficult, unresponsive, hard to pin down, you just stop sending them candidates. But it's very hard to do that unless you have an abundance of opportunities ahead of time, right? Then that way, imagine if you're on a call with a potential client, they're like, hey, would you do a 5K flat fee and do this and do a 6 month guarantee and all these hoops? You can be like, no, like I don't think this is gonna be a good fit. And you can easily and happily with a smile pass on that opportunity, knowing that you have so many other things coming in the pipeline in your calendar, right? But it's hard to fake abundance unless you really have it. So what I guess from a philosophical like standpoint, or it's like, no, that's all that we're really doing here with automation is creating abundance for you, for our clients, so that way they can choose and handpick the clients they work. I mean, you remember this, Jesse used to work at the agency too, is that like, it wasn't it frustrating getting assigned a job order that you had no choice but to work on? And you knew that this is not a good job order. You're like, this job order
Yeah.
sucks, right? Like this is below market salary. This hiring manager never gets back to us. They never hire from us. But what did the account manager or the owner of the agency said? They always say the same thing. Hey, I know this is a shitty job order, but their promise to give is better, Rex. So you just show them some love. Just send us some candidates. And I'm like, I always wish I could walk away and be like, I don't want to work with this client. Like, I don't like them. They don't see me as valuable. They treat me like a vendor, right? Like, they don't even get back to me. I have to beg them for like a candidate feedback, right? I sent that resume three years ago. They won't even get back to me. Now the candidate's calling me saying, hey, have you heard back from your client? And I have to apologize on my client's behalf and make him an excuse. Oh, I think they're on a retreat, or I don't know, make something up just to like smooth it over with a candidate, and now I lose a great candidate that spent hours like looking for sourcing and recruiting, right? So, and I have no choice but to work on this rec still, and I think that's one of the things that drives people that we found, right, doing this for 4 years now, right, helping hundreds of people, that people just want the freedom to handpick the clients that are going to treat them with respect, compensate them fairly, and they enjoy working with it. Every day they work on roles that they enjoy working on, work with clients they enjoy. And but the only way to do that is to do it yourself and to be able to walk away from bad clients. And you can't do that if your calendar looks empty, right, over the next month. But that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. Yeah, it's like banging your head against the wall every single day with no end in sight, being in an agency working with a client that doesn't respect or appreciate you. And on like the side of things, when you're able to actually go into ownership and control the type of clients that you're working with and the processes that are in place, um, it's like John said, like that is a really good point, is that you can try to go and fake abundance and act like you can turn away from them and everything. But right when you turn your laptop off at the end of the day, the first thing you're going to be thinking about is, oh shit, I don't have any calls for this next week. Maybe I should call them back and say, yeah, 10% sounds okay. And then you start talking yourself into, well, after the first hire, I'll renegotiate and get them to 20%. That's never going to happen though. So you're
Yeah.
never giving yourself like really any leverage to really be successful or provide the best service possible, I feel like, unless like the structure, I say it so many times, but like the structure and the foundation of what you're building is so important. And it's something that like I talk about a lot in like onboarding calls with people when they come on, is that people go into recruiting, they look at it black and white. Like the only time that I'm going to be happy or find success is when I get a fee. Yeah, that's the end goal. That's like the best part for sure. But setting everything up properly, having automations in place, having like your website, your LinkedIn profile, like having the structure in place and like a sound foundation, that's what creates like that success later on. So everything it's all important. And I know it's like from a place of like, just trust me, type of thing, but it really does matter. And I think people, they fall into this feast or famine thing because that's how a lot of people are trained in the agency environment too.
Mhm.
Like you have
Yeah.
to kind of rewire your mind when you go into this. So that's like the biggest thing I guess that I try to help out with is like reframing your mindset and then like
Mhm.
creating a structure so that like we never get into a situation where you feel like you're worried about the next call. You get to choose who you work with and say
Mhm.
no to people. And it's empowering. Like it feels really,
Yeah.
really empowering, really good coming from a recruiting background when you can say no to bad business. And then the business that you do that's good business, that they respect and appreciate you and you respect and appreciate them, it makes waking up every day and like doing this so worth it.
Yep, 100%, man. And one last thing to share about like Joshua asked like, hey, what if someone says, hey, I've tried this, it just hasn't worked for me. Like, how do I make it work? I think we had a person, an anonymous attendee ask, how do I get going with this? How do I make this work? Well, for me, whenever I'm on like like a coaching call and people say, hey, I'm not getting enough responses, right? Like it's not working just yet. What's going on? Well, we've been doing this long enough where we can really triage that quickly, right? There's only like a handful of variables that we can play with to adjust to create better responses, right? It's like, okay, if you don't get a response, we look at your target audience. Okay, are you reaching out to the right people? Oh no, you're reaching out to IT managers. They should be directors of IT. Those people are more the right people, so we can adjust your targeting. But if we look at who you're targeting as potential clients and it's spot on, then we look at your messaging, right? I mean, oh, that's this is not. Even to this day, people go through a program and we look at their messaging. We're like, this is not what we recommend. Like, what is this, right? I had one person, I won't say names, but he hired, oh my God, he hired a copywriter to write, this is a true story, write a jingle, and like it was in italics and it was in his LinkedIn message. I'm like, oh my goodness, you have a jingle. He's like, yeah, I thought it'd be catchy and stand out. I'm like, no, 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 please don't. So we had to undo it, and sure enough, it started working. He's one of our testimonials on our website. So that's why I don't want to mention his name. But just so once he had made the adjustment, he actually did really well, and he's doing really well now. But yeah, so people will do their own thing, and we always have to like herd cats and up. Let's not mess with the recipe, right? We've cracked the code. Don't mess with the foundation too much. But then so it might be the messaging, like that guy. But if it's a right audience, right messaging, then it might be well volume, like how many years I'm doing by hand. Well, it's still a numbers game, right? Because, and I hope this doesn't, scare people away, but the way I think of prospecting for new recruiting business with clients is you imagine like a big pie chart, right? So let's say half of your target list have no hiring needs. They don't need your help, and that's fine. So that's okay. So let's remove those people. They're not hiring. The ones who are hiring, they might have a team of internal recruiters already, right? Like they're covered. You reach out to Amazon, they might be like, hey, thanks, but we have like an army of recruiters, right? So we're not able to add as much value to those type of companies. So that's okay. So let's remove that from that population goes away. Now, some companies might be too small. They might be small, scrappy companies who can't afford your fees. So they're disqualified. Okay. So now you have left these kind of hiring managers who are hiring, they use agencies, which is good, but they're happy with their agencies. So they're like, dude, we use a recruiting firm. They rock. They're amazing. We have no complaints. So they're not viable prospects. So now you're left with this much smaller subset of potential clients who do use agencies. They are hiring. They're not happy with their current, recruiting firms, and they want to talk to you, and they're open to talking to you, right? So to get to that like small, let's call it 5-10% of the population that I mentioned of that list, you have to tap all of them on the shoulder and reach out to them. And if you're doing it by hand, forget about it. Like it'll take you forever to get to that small subsection of like perfect ideal prospects, right? So that's why, again, I think this is a must-have piece of your business. Otherwise, you're going to feel very disappointed reaching, hey, I spent the last 30 days manually reaching out to people, no one's getting back to me. Well, that's normal because most people are going to say no. And that's why you have to have volume and the right messaging. And then if it's still not working, then we'll look at your LinkedIn profile. Hey, because they might like your message. It's interesting. They click on who you are and they're seeing all sorts of different things. They're like, why do you have your old car dealership you used to work at? No, so we'll help you. We have a whole call. We optimize your LinkedIn profile to make it really be attractive to clients. Now, if they like your profile, they may click on your website just to like out of curiosity. Now, your website looks like it's in a different niche. Like, your website says you do legal recruiting, but you're talking to them about an IT role. Now that's not congruent, right? So then, but once your website, LinkedIn profile, your messaging, your audience, the volume is all dialed in, then obviously like you can kind of see that's going to work. Like that's how we crack the code because we nail every single variable, we isolate it, and then we make sure that it's all dialed in. So if any of those areas you feel like, oh man, I'm not quite doing that, this could probably be better, that's probably a clue to why this type of approach might not have worked for you yet.
Yeah, well said. If I had to add anything, I talk about this sometimes with people in the program. If it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. If a hiring manager looks at your profile and they see your LinkedIn, checks out, oh, this looks like somebody who does recruiting and they specialize in this industry. Let me go check their website. Let me check their business LinkedIn profile. Oh, yeah, it looks good as well. Boom, then you're a potential partner for them. Doesn't matter how small your firm is, what your background is. Like after we go through everything and optimize it, and we get you like looking the same as every other competitor, then like you're like really the only task for you is just like to differentiate yourself on the market by following what we put in place and letting your personality and like style shine through. And from there, I always say like realistically, you need 2 to 3 clients to be $250,000 firm. I know that sounds
Mhm.
crazy, but like that's really all it takes. So don't try to think you have to reinvent the wheel. And all these firms have like hundreds of clients and stuff. Like my business sold for like a little under 8 figures, and we had like 10 clients, I want to say. It's more about it's the quality, it's not the quantity. So that's just something I wanted to note, like at the end, is that it's not as like it's not this crazy feat to do these types of things. It just
Yeah.
takes like a system, a blueprint, and then just consistency. I preach that, just consistency day over day. And I'm not saying you have to spend 8 hours or anything like that. That's why we have automation in place and like a structure. But if you do all those things, like there's no difference between you all and me and John. Like we just followed like the steps that we're talking to you all about.
Yeah, because everything that we have in the program is our stuff, right? Especially since
Yeah,
you came on board,
it's
you've
everything.
added more training, and you're the one that helped co-author the 5.0 update to our program. So I'm
Mhm.
very grateful for that. And but yeah, I love the fact that like if you just fast forward, like what's the end goal? What's the end game here? The end game is to get like 5 clients. Because
Yeah,
every person who has 5 clients, let's assume each client gives you 3 job orders. That's 15 job orders. Like I don't care how good you are recruiting, you're gonna be busy. You'll be slammed.
yeah,
And of course, and we'll later talk about in the future fireside chat how to grow your delivery team and grow your team to help scale your ability to take on more job orders so you can make more money. But like 5 clients, you're slammed. 3 clients, you're good. Like 3 clients with 3 roles, each 9 recs. That's plenty of, you have 9 recs at any given point. The odds of you making one hire a month go up very, very high, right? It's very, 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 very likely. So, and then I was on this a call with somebody and they're like still doubtful. So I'm like, all right, what's your niche? Let's pull up LinkedIn. I go to LinkedIn, clicked on jobs, type in the job title that they like want to target, United States. And in the last like week, there's 5,000 posts. 5,000 posts from companies who are having such a hiring pain that they're paying LinkedIn a premium to advertise that they're posting 5,000. So I'm like, well, think about it this way, man. And I'm like, 10% of 5,000 is 500, right? 1% of 5,000 is 50. 0.01% of 5,000 is 5. So I'm like, do you think you can like achieve 0.01% market penetration and just like help just 5 companies of these 5,000 on here that posted within the last week? He's like, yeah, I suppose. And then of course, this is nationwide, right? Because you can pick up clients anywhere these days. So I'm like, oh, he's like, okay, well, just getting 0.01% of the market, I can certainly do that, right? And again, you have 5 clients, you have enough to build $250,000 a year, right? If you know how to recruit and deliver, and obviously we help with that too. So usually when I kind of walk people through that, they're like, oh, okay. Again, this is not a crazy feat. This is just picking up 0.01% of the business out there. Just a little tiny, like you're taking a little tiny like teacup and then going to the ocean, just kind of scooping up your little piece of the ocean. And that's enough to make you $250,000 a year. It's not that, it's crazy when you think about it that way, but an ocean of multi-trillion dollars of business, we just want to take a little scoop of our little $250,000 and then kind of, grow from there, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
One more thing I'll say to you guys just to go off of that is like I feel like a lot of people they get in, they're like, why would somebody pay for services, or whether you use a firm, like they could just hire an internal recruiter. They could. That internal recruiter is probably going to make like four hires. Like the cost of 4 hires is probably what they would pay them every year. And then add on like benefits, taxes, and everything. Like if they only have 4 hiring needs, it makes a whole lot more sense to just use someone who's specialized in whatever their industry is, and they're providing more value than have to bring someone on. And the higher the positions go, the higher salary goes for the recruiter too. So they're always going to end up saving money by using like your services as long as it makes sense on each side. So that's just like
Yep.
something to notate, is that I feel like a lot of people come into it that haven't done this before, or even if you have, you're like, why do people actually use firms, or like why does it make sense? Once you understand that, it's like a whole lot easier because you're actually presenting like at 20%, you're presenting the value add, opposed to them having to wait for 6 months and be like, okay, we got to go spend time recruiting, go find this
Mhm.
recruiter. We have to overpay for him just to come in and potentially drop the ball because now he's on salary and not operating the same way we are with really going out there on contingency.
Yeah, and in the upcoming fireside chat, we'll talk about exactly how to run a call with a hiring manager. So that way, uh, you're saying the right things and yeah, kind of addressing, why we're kind of a potential good resource for them. But so Josh, given the time we have left, I wanted to maybe ask for two things. One is I definitely want to get to any questions, so let's make sure we do that. And two, I think some people are just visually. Like I'm a visual learner, so actually, Josh, if you don't mind, would you mind pulling up like what this automation tool looks like, and they can kind of see for themselves, like once they play with it. Like, are you able to share your screen? I think as a host, you
Yeah.
should be able to share, right?
Yep. Yeah. So I've actually got one of our clients pulled up here. Had to kind of squeeze the screen to protect other clients' information, and make sure there was no personally identifying information, since this will be going up on YouTube too. But yeah, you can kind of see um, the amount of volume being sent out is
Mhm.
it's substantial. For one person to do this, it would be a full-time job. And this was
Mhm.
a list that was built in about an hour or two, uploaded, and it's just been running on autopilot. And I think, without mentioning his name, I believe, Jesse, you just said he booked 6 calls last week.
Yes, if that's what we're talking about. Yeah, I talked to him
Yeah.
today, and his LinkedIn inbox, he told me he spent half his day today just replying to people and setting up meetings because his calendar's so booked now. From if we're talking about the same person, which I think we are.
Yeah, we are. Yep. So
Okay.
yeah, I wanted
Yep.
to make sure. So let
And by the
me
way, while you're on that screen, Josh, like a
oh,
lot of people kind of get, I think they feel like overwhelmed with the technical piece of it. Like, oh, do I have to like, set this up myself? Like, I'm not a technical person, and what if I do it wrong and I accidentally push a button I wasn't supposed to push, I break it, right? And
yeah.
so what people might ask, hey, what is this thing? What tool are we on? So really quickly, this is called Recruiting Soft, right? And Recruiting Soft is actually a tool that we help co-build with a software development company because in the past, like, let's say a year ago, we used to recommend, hey, here's a list of different tools you can choose from. Go ahead and like subscribe to each one, get a LinkedIn automation tool, an email marketing software, a ATS, a CRM, a calendar tool, a website builder, and then like duct tape it all together, right? And we'll show you how to integrate it. But for the people who are not that technical, it would take them like a month to get that done. People who are savvy might still take them a week or two. And then, when one tool updates, it can kind of throw a wrench into things. And we've tried to make this super simple and easy by actually like when we met with a software development company, we said, hey, can you guys help us like integrate everything in one platform, make it cheaper than people having to do it themselves, less expensive, and can we bake in all of our best practices in terms of the configuration, the sequencing, the messaging, like what you're showing now, basically, right? And that way, whenever we onboard a new client, we can push our recommended templates to them. They can customize it and be up and running in like a couple of days. And 4 months later, a whole bunch of money later, we have this tool now, and so we offer it. You guys don't have to use this tool in the program. You can use whatever tool you want. We're fairly tools agnostic, but this is all everything baked in, so people find it easier and definitely a lot cheaper to do when it's all in one place. So this is what that tool is for people who are curious.
Yeah, you can
To give you
see
guys some
some.
background, just a quick thing I was going to say, when I had my firm, exactly what John's talking about, I hired a design team for $20,000 to do all of our branding and our website and everything. And then I had to hire another team to build out our own custom CRM and ATS. And then I had to get all these other tools and try to make them all commingle with each other. And most technology companies, unless they have partnerships, they don't want everything working together because it takes away the value that they have. So this has made like life a ton easier in my mind from doing it one time, like the Band-Aid method. Just quick note there.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and that
so
was,
yeah.
if they were paying attention, that was essentially how easy it was. I just launched a new campaign, go to sequences. If you want to, if you're in healthcare, generally tends to be an email based. Um, or if LinkedIn works better for the niche that you're in, there's LinkedIn only, email only, or if you want to run both, pick that, hit let's start, and then your campaign is built with all of kind of what we've learned about best practices with messaging. And then you plug your leads in, adjust a few settings, click save and launch. And like John mentioned, literally within 72 hours, you can have the tech out of the way and have your campaigns running, where before our program gave 90 days to get the website and like everything else set up to start
Yep.
prospecting now down to about 3 days. So
Yeah, and it's been great. You know, the feedback's been great. Like people say, cool, I can finally focus on like revenue generating activity, not business setup stuff, right? So anyways, actually before I know we're kind of approaching the end of the hour, I'm gonna drop my for anyone who has questions about any of this stuff that we talked about, and they want to or they're interested in the program, kind of what we do, I'll drop my personal calendar link here, and you guys can actually just book a call with me, and I'm happy. I mean, for anyone who's watching this, the fact that you guys have stuck with us for the full hour tells me that you take this seriously and take your recruiting business seriously. And for that reason, you know, I'm happy to answer questions you guys might have, anything along those lines. So let me go ahead and drop this to everyone. Josh, if you don't mind, kind of, when you post this, add that link too for anyone who maybe missed this last part.
yeah.
And yeah, you can book a call. I'll personally speak with you and answer questions about any of this stuff, and hopefully that helps you further your goals for running your own recruiting business, you know, profitably and successfully. And I think we have a few more minutes. Let's go over questions, Josh, if you have any, and we can kind of wrap this up.
So yeah, you kind of touched on the one about first steps and how to get the companies. Vivek asked about the ongoing monthly costs of running the
Mhm.
business.
Yeah, so good question, Vic. I would budget $300 a month just to cover operating costs. The way that breaks down is $100 a month will go just to LinkedIn, like or $99 or whatever it is now, 97 for a LinkedIn subscription. And we recommend Sales Navigator, which allows you to have the right filtering to find the right hiring managers and allow you to send high volume messages so you can actually run automation. You can't do automation at all with the free. You can't do anything with a free LinkedIn profile. So that's how they make their money. Of course, if you can imagine, if you're doing a nationwide search for a role, a remote software developer, obviously a lot of people in our program use the same automations, but pointed towards candidates. And you can use like the Sales Navigator to find the right software engineer with the right technology stack, send them the same messages, and that way you can canvas across the country the right candidates too. So that's $100 a month. Recruiting Soft is $197 a month with a free trial. So give you a chance to test drive it, make sure you like it, and it's working for you. And so together, $300 a month is what is all you would need to budget for to shoot for making like a $30,000 placement. So that's a good trade for me, I think, in terms of and with everything we have dialed in, all the best practices, that trade of $300 a month to make a $30,000 placement doesn't become just possible, but it's more probable with everything dialed in, right?
Yeah, I think it should be noted so that 300 a month is kind of like using the software we just mentioned. If you band-aid everything together, it's more along the lines of 400 to 500 a month, depending
Mhm.
on kind of which services you use, the level of package you get. Like it becomes more expensive and more tedious, but like
Yeah.
John mentioned, about 300 a month is a good starting point.
Yeah, and everything we the reason why I'm really glad that Josh, you helped even work with the software development companies to build this is because it's specific to recruiting, right? I think other people offer LinkedIn automation tools, but ours is like focused entirely on targeting hiring managers with the messaging sequencing. The strategies are specific to recruiting. So I think for that reason, we tend to get better results for our clients when people are really, really happy. And obviously that makes us happy when we see our clients win, right? That's why we do this.
Yep.
Uh,
So looks like
yeah, any other
one.
questions?
Okay. So Vivek, for that, best thing would be reach out to that link that John dropped in the Zoom chat and connect with him to go through that. And Sandra asked if we help with candidate lead generation as well.
Yeah, so 100%. And this is probably best saved for the fireside chat where we talk about recruiting, sourcing, because
Yeah.
client acquisition, everything we talked about is just half the battle, right? As most of you know, as well as we do, that if you have a client that signs a agreement to bring you on as a recruiter to help them fill their roles, you haven't made a dollar. You'll get paid for that. You have the opportunity to get paid by delivering the right talent to them. And so in the upcoming fireside chat, just keep an eye out for the emails. We're going to spend a whole call, a whole webinar diving just into how to source, recruit, prospect, and manage the interview process, get the offers done, dealing with counter offer situations, all the nuances that come from that piece of it, the delivery side of the coin, right? And so obviously that's we'll take a whole call just to cover that stuff. But I think the short answer for that is yes, we teach it, and the way to handle that is to actually, and again, for anyone thinking this is a really like a easy, quick business you can run, set automations and like print money, it's not the case. This is a real business that requires real skill. And recruiting, there's a reason why people do it for a living professionally, because it requires a high level of skill. Fortunately, you only have to be better than the average recruiter, which is not that hard, but you still have to be able to attract and find the right candidate. And the right candidate typically is already employed, working usually for one of your client's competitors. They're getting well paid, well rewarded, treated well, and they have really no interest in making a change in their job. Like that's who your client is paying you a premium for. They want that person. So, we'll get to how to go about doing all that, but if you think it's just easy, unfortunately, people come with this misconception that, oh, I'll just post a job on LinkedIn ad for the right candidate, and just this person's going to apply for that job. No way. You'll get people who are unfortunately undesirable to your clients applying for that job. And if it were that easy, everyone would be doing it, right? So, good question though, Sandra.
Yep. So yeah, it looks like the only other one is how long to warm up a domain. 30 days is what we recommend. And then if you ever notice you're kind of dealing with a spam issue, plug it back into the warm up for another 30 days and you're back off to the races. So yeah. Yeah, if you want to take one more, it's kind of off topic, but if I'm new to recruiting, how do I understand my industry when I'm starting out?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's really no, that's why it's step number one in our 6-step process is really having a hyper-focused niche. And typically we solve for that by spending a whole call with you one-on-one. That's the first step. When Jesse onboards you, he'll spend that entire call really diving into niche, and that way you have confidence going to market, and this is your lane you're running in because of all the entire call, right? We take into consideration a lot of different factors to be able to prescribe and recommend a niche. And it's very, very personalized one-to-one. There's no, I wish there was like a list of like, here are the 10 best niches, just pick one and you'll make lots of money. It's really very case by case. So that involves, yeah.
Yitzi, we actually 2 weeks ago, we held a fireside chat on everything about niche, picking the right niche, how to know it's right for you, all of that. If you go to our YouTube channel, John, are you able to drop a link to our YouTube channel in the chat?
Yep.
If I send it
Yeah,
over,
absolutely.
to you and Jesse. And
yeah, no, I'll drop that here as well. You can check that specific call out. You see, I know we go deep into niche, and just make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. Actually, I don't care. Just I hope you enjoy the video. I think you'll get some value from it. So yeah, awesome guys.
So yeah, I think that's good for this one. Like our
Yeah.
previous ones, about a week, 2 weeks, we'll have this recording ready to go. An email go out about it. It'll be on our YouTube channel, so you guys can revisit if you had any questions. Otherwise, yeah, definitely, if you're interested in learning more, connect directly with John. He can answer whatever personal questions you have about it, or kind of things that you wanted to know specifically for yourself. Since we're kind of talking to many people, it's hard to really customize the conversation. So if you did want to learn more, John just dropped his link back in the Zoom chat, or you'll see it in the email beneath this recording when it goes out. But yeah, other than that, anything you guys want to sign off
Yeah,
with?
yes, that's great. And you can always go to your website to, it's one thing to hear from us, but I think people get a lot of value hearing other people's stories of their journey, people that we've helped. So, we have that all on our LinkedIn. You can check out my LinkedIn recommendations, our website, testimonials. I would just, find one or two people who have a similar industry as you and just kind of hear their journey and how they went about doing their struggles, how they overcame it. I think that should share some good insight about what you might be getting into. yourself. And yeah, guys, thanks for this as always. And just keep an eye out for your emails for next week. We're hosting the next topic next week where we get more into sales. And actually, when this automation produces 1 or 2 calls a week, when you're on that call, now what? What do you say when you're on the call with a VP level hiring manager that's gonna result in that call going well for them to say at the end of the call, you know what? I liked everything we talked about. We have 10 roles. Let me give you 2. If you do a good job on that, I'll give you more business. Let's start there. So we'll talk about how to crack that code of it.
Cool.
Awesome, guys.
Awesome,
Thanks.
guys. Thanks for
Take
being
care.
here. See ya.
Yeah, bye now.